United's summer clear-out is, as always, making the headlines, and it isn't just who's leaving, but how. We've got 5 high-profile players on around about 800 grand a week combined that have been given extra time off instead of returning to pre-season so they can explore potential moves away after there's been a desire expressed to leave. And these are big names: Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Garnacho, Antony, and Malacia. Essentially, a load of talent that the manager has deemed surplus to requirements. But tellingly, none of these players have officially handed in transfer requests, at least not publicly confirmed, even though there's talk around that's what happened. United are struggling to get rid of them. They are unwanted. That being publicly known is not helping us. It also means we're probably getting lowballed when anyone is interested in bringing those players. But I think it's quite revealing about the complex dance of modern transfers and contracts. So in this video today, what I wanted to do was educate and unpack a little bit of what's going on at Old Trafford, why United are having trouble offloading this 5, what each player's situation is, and why formal transfer requests are so rare when everybody knows that a player wants out, and what is a transfer request really? So let's dig in. First, the 5 players that are on United's seemingly unofficial transfer list, according to, well, everyone, Sky, The Athletic, everybody: Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho, Antony, Malacia. They've all been told that they don't figure in the club's plans and they won't be joining training with the rest of the squad, even though it seems like actually that might be a little bit different for each one. All 5 have apparently indicated that they're open to leaving and have already mentally started to move on, or even expressed a desire to leave. So, is that a transfer request? Have they been transfer listed? Let me break it down for each player. Marcus Rashford, the number 10 no more. Obviously a local lad, at one point undroppable. His situation has dramatically flipped in the last 12 months. Spent the second half of a season on loan at Aston Villa, who at first were interested in him. He did a story or a sit down with Henry Winter where he said he was looking for a new challenge. And then Henry Winter last week put out something which was like contrary to that. And you're like, hang about. Which is why I think there's nuance around the language and the contractual terms used here that are important. Amorim's made it quite clear that he's not interested in Marcus Rashford. And I don't know if that was his own decision or if it was kind of like a club decision where they were like, listen, we'd like him to be moved on, because the way he was kind of just ostracized from the squad immediately upon Amorim's joining felt like it was more someone else's decision than Amorim's. Now, over time, it might have become Amorim's decision as well. It just felt like the way he wasn't really given a chance at all by Amorim could have been maybe someone else had influenced that. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just speculating from what I can see and analyse from the outset. But this summer, having Cunha come in and having his number taken away from him, well, the signal's quite clear, isn't it? Rashford's time at United is over. And despite that stature, despite the history, no official offers have come in. He himself is reportedly keen on joining Barcelona, and there's withering reports that Barcelona and Hansi Flick are interested in Marcus Rashford. But there's been no official call from him. He's made it clear he wants Champions League football. Honestly, I think he'd be fortunate to just get a club willing to pay his wages, to be honest with you, at the moment. Isn't considering a move to any London club. I don't know if that was on the cards for him, but he's probably not. Is Camper refusing any sort of swap deal shenanigans? They don't want him used as a mate weight in an exchange, according to Sky Sports. So the stance is basically Barcelona or bust, or maybe another top European club. Barcelona's interest is complicated because their finances are every summer cracking accounting. You know, they somehow manage to pay the rent. Don't ask where the TV's gone. Like, that's how Barcelona seem to operate. They're an absolute mess. They apparently have been interested in some sort of a loan with an option rather than an upfront fee. United and Ineos can't really fuck with that, to be honest, because we need that money to come in so we can go and start doing our own rebuild. The price Aston Villa were quoted was 40 million. I think that's pretty good value for the player that you can get if you can manage to turn him around, if he can be turned around. Getting the fee isn't the be-all and end-all. It is another matter altogether, but I think it's safe to say, and looking at what Henry Winter reported last week, he's not submitted a formal transfer request. And I will get to what that means soon. So for now, he's in limbo. No bid has come in for him. Manchester United don't want him. People are doing pre-season. Before you know it, the Premier League will start. Other leagues will start. And he might just be left. What happens if he's not sold in the window? Jadon Sancho. This plank is a saga all unto himself. His United career has been turbulent, to say the least. Public fallout with Ten Hag. Barely featured. Left on loan. So in the last 18 months away from Old Trafford, on loan, most recently at Chelsea. He's now back, got a new manager. New manager's not having him. One source reckons it's clear that Sancho's not in Amorim's plans either. United are actively trying to move him on. Juventus have emerged as a bit of a suitor. Juventus supposedly offered us a pick of a handful of players to try and take him away. There's a basic agreement in the 20-25 million range for a fee. But the personal terms, because he's on reportedly like about 300 grand a week, are a bit of a sticky point. He's not worth 300 grand a week. So he's asking for United to close the gap between his current contract and the one Juventus want to offer him. You know, they're asking him to take about a 2 million a year pay cut in euros. Juventus have got, allegedly, a strict salary cap. So he wants United to bridge the difference. It's about 5 million euros in a severance package, which personally think is taking a piss, considering for the last however long you haven't played for Manchester United. In other words, he's saying, pay me to go, or I won't go, and you'll have to pay my wages, which is a shit situation because United are not really recouping very much at all of what we outlaid on him. And you'll be lumbered paying his wages on top of that as well. So this is a real shit situation. But again, this is another example of he's asked to leave but hasn't submitted a formal transfer request, because a formal transfer request gives you so much more power. And you'd be like, no, we're not paying your shortfall. You submitted a transfer request. This is the situation that you find yourself in, and which is why United are going to have to at least negotiate with him, if not just pay what he wants to get him off the books. Garnacho, once seen as the next big thing coming through United, it went very sideways for him towards the back end of the season. And probably a little bit self-inflicted, I think, this one, actually. Played a hell of a lot of football last season, seen his arse with not starting the Europa League final, and did not react to that very well. Obviously clashed with the manager and was told to go and find a new club. That got out publicly, as you can imagine, which has then led to great difficulty in moving him on. There is no buyer for him. No formal offers have come in for him. There's supposedly interest, but like I can't work out whether this interest is real or is made up. Napoli, one of the ones that seems to have fake quotes circulating from their president about him. Don't know if they're real. Romano reckons that they're not real. But there does appear to be some interest. Chelsea have mentioned as admirers, even supposedly that would be Garnacho's destination of choice. AC Milan have been touted as a potential place for him to go. United slapped on a £70 million asking price for him, which I think was smart. Set the bar real high. You probably accept a lot less than that, 45, 50 million maybe. But you've got to go in and be like, this is what we want for him. He's not on high wages, so it shouldn't be the same situation that you find yourself with Rashford and Garnacho. But United need to get some money in from somewhere. We've been so mismanaged, so poorly run in terms of transfers in incoming. We have to start putting some money up in the back end. You're not going to get a lot for Rashford. You're not going to get a lot for Sancho. Their wages are a massive, massive issue. With Garnacho, you might get something. But again, another one, despite all the posturing and the talk, Garnacho's not submitted an official transfer request. Everyone knows he and United are heading for a split. It's another delicate situation, but formal requests haven't happened. Then you got Anthony, apparently moved over to Seville, and he's like, this'll happen. It hasn't happened, but he's sitting there shrugging his shoulders saying, this'll happen. Basically moved his entire life over there, just waiting for the call that's going to happen. United obviously want to recoup a decent chunk of the 80 million that we paid out for him, but it's unrealistic. Betis do not have the sort of funds that it would take. They've asked for him on loan again. United have said we'd prefer a fee. The fee's going to be low. There's not loads of other suitors coming for him. Como has been rumoured as one. Obviously ambitious club doing bits, seeming to have all sorts of celebrity stuff going on with them. Como are interested, but I don't know what sort of cash they've got. Possible, plausible one. I can't believe lightning would strike 3 times, but Erik ten Hag, the new boss at Leverkusen, has supposedly been interested in him. It seems like Antony wants to go to Betis, though. So, of all the players last season, I mean, Antony was poor in a United shirt, but in terms of attitude and wanting to get on and wanting to play, the rest of them could really take a leaf out of Antony's book. I don't think he needs to submit a formal transfer request. I think everyone's happy with the situation that they find themselves in. It's just that the clubs that are interested in him can't afford him. And then Malacia, we obviously just want to get rid of him, and he doesn't want to play it. And, you know, there's mistakes all over the show, especially when you look at the situation with Alvaro Fernandez, and the fact that we signed Malacia rather than giving that kid a chance, who's now signed for Real Madrid. So, why no formal transfer request from any of these players? All of these players want out. Why have they not handed in official transfer requests? And it's a phrase that you hear in football a lot. The reason that you hear that a lot is because it is a contractual mechanism, the transfer request. It's in the contract. It can be a quite dramatic turning point in the situation with a club. But the truth is, in football, modern football especially, formal transfer requests are increasingly rare. And the reason is money and leverage. When a player, think of it like this, the difference between getting a bollocking at work and a written warning at work. It's the same thing, right? But it's not the same thing. You can have a very public, I want to leave now. You could even tweet it, and some players do. It's still very different to a formal, no, a tweet might be muddying the waters a little bit, but it's still very different to a formal contractual mechanism of a formal transfer request. Because a formal transfer request can trigger financial consequences. Contracts will often include loyalty bonuses. The chances are the likes of Sancho and that, Marcus Rashford, could be due loyalty bonuses because they've not submitted a formal written transfer request, even though you can sit there and be like, they've done everything in their power to leave. It's in the contract, and that's the most important thing. Former PFA chief Gordon Taylor explains it by saying many contracts have a lump sum or a yearly loyalty payment, which is provided to the player by them not formally asking to leave the club. So if a player goes and officially asks to leave with a written contractual mechanism, he forfeits that bonus. And that's a lot of money. These loyalty payments can be 20% of the value of a contract. So that's a hell of a lot, like a couple of months worth of wages. So they're not just going to do that. And there are sometimes signing on fees that are paid in parts. Guess what? If you don't demand a transfer, you're actually entitled to the remaining portion of your signing on fee. The signing on fee doesn't necessarily all get paid to you the day you sign on. Some of that signing on fee will be spread out amongst the remainder of the contract, and you will get it over the years if you don't formally ask for a transfer. You ask for a transfer, you literally lose bonuses. Massive deterrent for it. So even if they've touted for a move, their agents are literally pitching up somewhere in Saudi or something like that, begging for them to be signed, the fact that they've not put in that written paperwork means contractually they've not asked to leave. Another factor, the obligations of certain fees moves from the player to the club or the club to the player and can strengthen the club's negotiating hand. If a player wants out so badly that he's gone and asked out, the player might be off the hook for the loyalty bonus, and they could argue that they no longer owe the player the same backing. They sometimes actually encourage players to put transfer requests in for those reasons. When he was United manager, David Moyes actually tried to get Leighton Baines and Fellaini to hand in transfer requests to try and force their deals through a little bit cheaper because of what that means in a contractual kind of sense. From a United perspective now, if Rashford, Sancho, etc. all put in transfer requests, United are going to save a fortune in loyalty payouts. They would also be able to signal to the buying clubs these players are really eager to leave now. It could also mean clubs come in a little bit bolder, maybe even lowball United on fees. You know, that's a consideration for it. But it also means when the likes of Sancho are saying, I want 5 million to leave, if he's submitted a formal request, when that negotiation comes down to it, and he said, well, they're only willing to pay me 200, I'm on 300, I want you to make the shortfall. United go, you asked to leave, mate. You're the one that wants to get out of this contract with us. Stick up your ass. So this is the sort of standoff masquerading as mutual agreement that we find ourselves in. The club has privately told them, you're not wanted, feel free to find a new club. Some of that has leaked out publicly. The players have said, okay, I want a new club. And it's all informal. It's all a verbal warning rather than a written warning. Handing in a transfer request doesn't actually put you any closer to leaving. All it does is remove the club's financial obligations in terms of paying bonuses to you. So when you see things tweeted by journalists that no formal transfer request has been submitted, it's smoke and mirrors. It might be factually correct, but it doesn't mean it's true, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, okay, come on, play the game. And the dilemma that United now find ourselves in, even without the formal request, it's abundantly clear to everybody that those 5 players are on the market. United are struggling to find deals for each players. And it could be different reasons for different players. They could be worries and issues around attitude. There could be worries and issues around injury record with Malacia. There could be clubs just raw inability to afford the fee that the player commands in the case of Anthony. Or it could be the wages, which is, I think, the major issue when it comes to Sancho and to Rashford. We're trying to bring in new signings, whether that's Mbeumo, whether that's a Watkins, whether that's whoever. We need sales to fund those moves. I think we're skint. The reason that United are being linked with Calvert-Lewin is not because we're sitting on 300 million as a transfer kitty and had just rather save the money for a rainy day. Even if Marcus Rashford goes to Barcelona, they're going to be a bit iffy with his wages because of the significant wages that he's on. There's an absolute tug of war going on, and United are running out of time in a big way. From the players' perspective, none of them are going to sacrifice those payouts that they believe they are due by outright demanding a transfer. Even if we can all sit here and rationally say, we don't think you're worth a loyalty bonus. You haven't fucking played for us in 18 months. How fucking dare you accept a loyalty bonus? Even when you were playing for us, you got fucked off to Holland on holiday, on a sabbatical to sort your napper out on our dime. You're a fucking cheeky bastard if you take your loyalty bonus from Manchester United. Maybe that's what they're sitting down with to try and discuss and figure out at the moment. But this is why you see fluffy, accurate, but deliberately misleading language expressing a desire of asked to leave, because a transfer request is a contractual mechanism. That's the difference. And in the end, hopefully this is a lesson for United. And it's a bit of a lesson in how years of overpaying on wages, overpaying on salaries, maybe under scouting personality. I mean, the fact that you've got Sancho and Anthony, £150 million worth of 2 players that play the same fucking position, and nobody at the club questioned, half of the problem with some of those players, them 2 players specifically, is because they play in the same fucking position. It's a lesson in United in succession planning, in transfer planning, and in just actually managing the club in a better manner than we have done. I would be shocked if we were able to jettison all 5 of those this summer. And if we do, I think we'll get booted in the dick for it. But it is a saga that needs to come to an end, because we can't afford this as a club. Anyway, hopefully that's explained a little bit in terms of why you see some of the language that you see when it comes to transfer requests, asking to leave and all that sort of nonsense and agent speak. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.